Hello passengers, this is your captain speaking. If you look towards your left, you would see the mutant nation of Genosha. It's beautiful, isn't it? It is one of the...
Ooh, okay, well, that's why we do simulations, folks. And yeah, welcome back, guys. Today's video, it's going to be your one-stop shop destination. Just anything you guys want to know about places to travel in the comic book space. Places that are good will not be a part of this discussion at all. Only places that are very dangerous. Places where you need to develop 5 extra set of eyes just to know where you're going safely. These places are no joke. Only the biggest daredevils will ever attempt to go here. But I guess that's what makes it fun. And before we get started, I have a little bit of a ground rule. Just so nobody asks, this video will not cover any sort of sprawling realm or planet like Asgard or Apocalypse, because those places are very big. There's certain places that are good to live there, or maybe, just maybe, you have enough power or you're enough in the hierarchical chain that it won't matter that much if you live there or not. And 2, and you're not going to travel there. There is no human way to make it there. You're not going to stumble upon it, only if you somehow get Thor to fall in love with you. If you're a man, I don't know how that's possible. Maybe you can pretend to be a girl. Maybe let me stop. Or maybe Darkseid pulls a Thanos and finds a random citizen that he likes to torture for some reason on his birthday, and he just takes you with him to be a part of his slave group on Apocalypse. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think he's that petty to find a random citizen like Thanos is. And in general, he's too busy cooking up Peak in the absolute universe, so that's not gonna happen. But yeah, anyways guys, with that out of the way, let's get straight into the info. Let's get to it. Okay, well, since we already talked about it, might as well speak on the mutant nation of Genosha. Now, being a mutant really does suck. All the places I'm going to talk about really is bad for you guys. And in general, a lot of you guys are mutants, and I say that in the least Captain America derogatory way possible. Oh my goodness, I'm still mad about that. The fact that X-Men writers make Captain America racist, but in his own comics, he is an ally. Let me stop. Anyways, Genosha, for your information, is on the eastern coast of Africa in the... yeah, it's in the Indian Ocean, right? And the problem with it, what really sticks with me, is that on the surface, it looks very progressive, right? A place that is for the benefit of mutants. But when you look beneath the surface, you realize the mutant dream of equality, here is where it goes to die. In general, you'd realize that before the mutants actually took ownership of this land, it was a place that was quote-unquote good for them, but actually underneath there were human oppressors that would use mutants as slaves, and nobody knew about it, and they would even abduct people. Even X-Men members got abducted, and that's what led to them actually finding out about it. Furthermore, they would mutate people with their own DNA and use them just for that, so not that many people were safe from these transgressions. But eventually, through so many civil wars back and forth in Genosha, eventually it led to the place becoming vacant, and through a deal with Magneto and the United Nations, they said, you know what, you could have your own space. Right here, you can build a place for mutants to be so that we don't have to bother each other, right? So that we don't have to be in fear. Both of us can live peacefully. And Magneto, he was the one who set all of this up. But the problem with it was that if you see in X-Men 97, which fully goes in detail of the traumatic events, a genocide occurred. One of, if not the biggest genocide I've ever seen in comics. It's the biggest mutant genocide in Marvel publication history. What happened was that wild sentinels were dropped, right? Out of nowhere, complete surprise attack. And get this, it dwindled the mutant population down so low. A total of 16,521,618 mutants out of the world's 17,508,236 were killed in the massacre. That's like over 94% of the mutant population was reduced at that one time. And on top of that, due to M-Day and decimation, when Wanda Maximoff lost her mind and said no more mutants, that dwindled the population even further to hundreds. I think the population was like about 300 or something people were actually classified as mutants. Dude, that place had it completely rough, and if you were to travel there now, it would just be a hunk of nothing. I'm being completely honest. Nothing is there. It is a pure wreckage, and honestly, it's for the best. The amount of horrific acts that happened in this one period of time is enough to make anybody just shrivel into like a pile of goop. So yeah, mutants, you guys had it rough. And this wasn't even the end of it. That was part 1. Part 2 happened in another place called Utopia. It was literally called Utopia. And the problem was that this was kind of a last resort, right? After M-Day, only 100 mutants actually remained. So Cyclops, being the leader that he is, grafted this land using Magneto and Namor's help. He literally raised it out of the ocean. And the goal of this was for mutants to have a space without having to beg for it. We're not talking to the United Nations anymore. We're just going to make our own. But this wasn't even a home. They were building a bunker. And in X-Men's Second Coming, that event, every major villain group that the X-Men ever fought attacked Utopia because they were raising Hope Summers, a girl that was known as the so-called mutant messiah, the person that would bring back all of the mutants. It was her prophecy, right? And Cyclops wanted to keep her as safe as possible, but the problem with this is that it led to a civil war. Schism happens, and it leads the X-Men to be cut in half, right? The leadership was all over the place, and that's because Cyclops wanted to train the children to become soldiers, right? Their numbers were dwindling. This was the only way to keep Hope and everybody else safe. But Wolverine, he was done with sending kids into battle. And this was the exact moment where Utopia didn't fall from the outside, it happened from within. And Utopia dies with the Phoenix in Avengers vs. X-Men. Utopia becomes ground zero. For the Phoenix Force coming back, Cyclops becomes the Phoenix, the new host, and everything collapses. It explodes, and the power really drives him mad, right? And there's nothing really left of Utopia. It was a new beginning, and it came and left just as fast as every disaster that will happen going forward, because we're not done yet. Krakoa is another situation. Heaven with a sword and a door, right? It seemed like it was the closest thing that mutants had to real peace. In the Claremont era, he introduced something called Krakoa, a sentient island that now, as of 2019, and it just finished by the way in like around 2023, this whole era, Charles Xavier, Magneto, and Moira, all of them formed a secret alliance to create a mutant-only nation, right? And Krakoa itself was a self-sustaining ecosystem, and they've somehow developed a way for mutants to become immortal. They developed immortal resurrection protocols and became a political superpower overnight. And there's this one line that I really love. I'm gonna read this entire excerpt from Charles Xavier. He's like this: "From this day forward, mutants will be judged by mutant law, not man's. These are our simple demands. They are not negotiable. In return for making our lives better, we will do the same for you. And if you find yourselves asking, who are these mutants that think they can dictate terms to us? We are the future, an evolutionary inevitability, the Earth's true inheritors. You closed your eyes last night believing the world would be forever yours. That was your dream, and like mine, it was a lie. Here is the new truth. While you slept, the world changed." I've never seen Xavier drop a bigger bar in my life. This was some Optimus Prime, Captain America, Superman level speech. This got me rallying, bro. I was stepping out of my seat like LeBron. I was about this life. I would die for the mutant cause, and I'm not even a mutant. But, as you might expect, nothing good ever lasts forever, right? The whole society is based on lies and secrets. Moira, through her past lives trying to figure things out, reveal that mutants always lose in the end. They're trying to shape and bring everything back together, trying to dangle and hold on to all these threads for as long as they can, but quietly and very loudly, it all falls apart. The facade crumbles. Just like the past, everything repeated itself. It fell from within. And on top of that, they still have their enemies to deal with. After Judgment Day and Fall of X, they had to deal with Orcus, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce their name, leading a coordinated attack. The resurrection protocols, all of it were sabotaged, and Krakoa was, as you might expect, invaded. The Quiet Council, the council that was running this whole ship, they scattered, and once again, the mutants were then displaced, hunted, and killed. Krakoa was a dream, and they almost pulled it off. Granted, they were doing some pretty shady stuff, but in general, if the goal was mutant peace, and who cares what humans are doing, who cares what we do unto humans, we're just trying to keep it our way or the highway, we're trying to make it so that we survive, they almost had it. But in the end, paradise can't really exist if you're surrounded not only by enemies, but you're also built on lies. It just wasn't ever going to work out. Mutants really do got it bad, huh? But shifting our perspective to the humans and the stuff that they gotta deal with, let's bring our attention to Blüdhaven, the sister city to Gotham. If you don't want to go to Gotham, go to Blüdhaven. Maybe not though, because it's actually statistically worse than Gotham, and you might be asking yourself, how is that even possible? Now, if we look at Tomasi's Detective Comics run, you would see that Batman and all of his allies have actually brought the death count to 130 people a year that have died. If you look at real world cities, there are places in America where 600 plus people die a year. That is highly impressive considering the state that Gotham actually is in and the uphill battle that Bruce has to fight against. But in Blüdhaven, there's only one protector, and that's for the best because when the Titans were there, it was really boring. But only Nightwing is there to protect it, and the fact that it could fit on one hand the amount of good cops there is in Blüdhaven says something. The fact that Dick Grayson had to become a police officer to fit the full 5 fingers is diabolical. Blüdhaven police is so corrupt. A lot of them are in the pockets of Blockbuster or a lot of the gangs in Blüdhaven. A lot of them are really gung-ho in the way they go about fighting. In the recent run, they have been upgraded. They were given laser blasters that could explode city blocks and jetpacks. And a lot of them really just want to punch down. And that's where Nightwing comes in. He has to fight to protect not only civilians, but criminals, because these people don't know when it's right to shoot off a blast that could probably take out a low-level metahuman. They are actively killing kids, and this is something that has to be dealt with continuously. These kids aren't even just bad kids, there are people that don't have homes, and they needed somewhere to fit in. That's why they joined the Teddy Bear Gang, because this is the only place for them, where people would watch their back. And Blüdhaven police will just shoot them without any fear of the consequences. Furthermore, Batman villains show up all the time. Even if you're a police officer, you're not safe, because the BPD has a legend. The first Blüdhaven police officer that was killed in battle has become the spirit, Captain Hollow. This is a legend, by the way, this is not actually true. We learn in the comics that it's actually a mantle taken on by multiple police officers to deal with those who don't follow the police code. If you're not doing what's in the best interest of the Blüdhaven Police Department, not even the people, if you're not doing that, you'll be killed by copper bullets, and these same bullets are melted down police badges that have been turned into offensive weapons. And you have to look out. If you see an abundance of smoke, that is Captain Hollow. Run as fast as you can. You do not want to be caught in the crossfire. Furthermore, Blüdhaven has to deal with eldritch horrors. If it wasn't enough, they have to deal with the Zani, which fortunately for them is only targeting Nightwing so that he could be his ringmaster, whatever that means. And 2, if we look at the recent solicitations of Nightwing, we see the Titan's Tower consumed by whatever this is. I can't even explain it. I'm gonna let you describe it in the comments down below. What will we name as a collective this abomination? Leave your best names down below. And this is not even the worst things that happened to Blüdhaven. In fact, courtesy of Deathstroke, Dick Grayson's biggest op, a nuke was dropped on the city. Chemo, a weird radioactive blob of a character, was dropped, and it killed 100,000 civilians. And in the recent comics, it's still in effect to this day. People are getting mutated because of this radiation in certain spots. That's how lingering it is. And this happened in 2005. Obviously, with comics, there is a sliding time scale, but take with that as you will. Anyways, 1 year later, a quarantine zone was formatted, and a structure called the Wall was made a permanent structure surrounding the city. And the most vile thing is that there was a character called Father Time who had American forces, because obviously all of this is going on under the watchful eye of the government, and he ordered his men to shoot and kill any heroes that tried to break their way into the facility. They were referred to as insurgents, right? Anyone who entered the city, it was on sight. But that wasn't the worst part. What makes this worse is that his forces created internment camps, and you might be asking yourself, for what? Who's there? Well, there were some people there, and what they did was conduct experiments on American citizens. It was so bad that a team of people called the Atomic Knights formed, and they ran a quote-unquote underground railroad to smuggle these people out of the city and create a barrier to prevent people from stumbling their way into Blüdhaven. It was so bad, so vile, that Captain Atom had to literally detonate to destroy the entire city, take it off the map. so that nobody has to deal with this ever again. But at the end of the day, chemo and the machinations of Deathstroke is something that Nightwing has to deal with to this day. So if you travel there, be very careful of not only passerbys, and not only villains, not only eldritch horrors, not only the BPD accidentally shooting you with their atomic weapons, but also be careful of radiation. I do not want to see you guys turn into a bunch of skeletons on the news, okay? Thank you. Let's move on to our next place, Lost to Time, and you might even stumble upon it just for being in a weird time fissure. Not likely, but be careful. It is Chronopolis. We make our way to Chronopolis. I don't know how you're going to find this place. It's going to stumble upon you, actually. And when you see it, hopefully you're not within the borders. Looking at it from a distance like a tourist trap is probably the best case scenario. But what is Chronopolis? You guys might be asking. Well, Chronopolis, the thing about it is that the city is run by Kang the Conqueror, right? And imagine this. We're walking outside, right? It's 1930s New York, but one wrong step and you find your way looking at dinosaurs. Then another step, you're in 2099, seeing lasers flying all over the place, flying cars, giant robots. Then you take another step back and you find yourself on this barren wasteland that's just pure jungle with a bunch of swamp creatures. And then you look up and you see a warlord who knows exactly how your life ends. You're in the capital of Kang's empire. You live there, but not really. You are a part of Kang's collection. You are an extension of Kang's own ego. You're just there to be moved around as he sees fit. It's his home base, and in effect, it's a seat of power that is seen across time. It's located in Limbo. It's in a pocket dimension that touches every single era in the Marvel timeline. And that sounds really cool, right? But I'm gonna be honest, it is. Every single district is a different time period. Ancient Egypt, medieval Europe, dystopian futures, all of them is there, side by side, coexisting in one perfect reality. That would be the case until you realize how terrifying it is. Every single day is unpredictable. In Fantastic Four, I think it's volume 6, Reed and the entire family, they go on an adventure to explore alternate versions of Chronopolis. And they realize that one single mistake can unravel entire sectors, entire districts, complete boroughs in the city. It's like living on a fault line, but one wrong move would lead to time-disrupting paradoxes, maybe even timeline incursions that erase parts of the map. You're here one moment, and the next you're nothing. Just sparks of dust flying throughout the air. I would not want to live like that, but I guess it would never be boring, huh? People are often forcibly moved and relocated to different sectors. People there are displaced. There's not really one true home. You're just a nomad, a person without one true place or country, just wandering from place to place, seeing where you fit in. And me personally, I would not want to live that life. We as a society thrive on having comfort, from having balance, from knowing that you have a place to go home to when the day is done and finished. But Chronopolis, if you find your way here somehow, just be very prepared of having very eventful days. That is all I'm gonna say. Now, for the moment you guys have all been waiting for, it's time to talk about Gotham City. Now, Gotham is a very peculiar place. As I've said before, Batman has kind of, I don't want to say eradicated crime, but he has lowered the crime rate, right? Through his efforts and the efforts of the Bat family. There isn't that much stuff going on. For the most part, a lot of the villains that we know of have either been redeemed out of the picture or killed by other means, so it actually isn't that bad. But if we're gonna go back to how Gotham usually is, you have to worry about a lot of things. Of course, organized crime, human trafficking, serial killers, drug trafficking, all of these things. On top of that, villains kind of own the city. One day, Joker might appear and just shoot laughing gas through an entire neighborhood. Maybe he's trying to poison the water reservoir. Then you have people like Scarecrow with his fear toxin. Maybe Poison Ivy is gonna mind control the entire city to do some heinous stuff. Maybe we have, I don't know, Mr. Freeze trying to encase an entire district into a block of ice, trying to make it a winter wonderland, his Eden of ice. He's done this before too, but obviously a lot of these characters over time have either one, been redeemed, or two, really just moved on. Mr. Freeze himself has moved on. He's not really a villain that much anymore. Two-Face has also dabbled in the hero shtick. He's going to flip-flop back and forth because of the duality of his character, but in general, he's not like 100% evil as he's always been. But you don't just have to worry about criminals. In Gotham, we have lots of natural disasters, or just a lot of just natural things happen to us that we can't fight against. In Batman Contagion, Ebola came. In Batman Cataclysm, a 7.6 magnitude earthquake appeared, cracking everything in the city, destroying huge buildings. The gas mains broke and the entire city went on fire. And then in Batman No Man's Land, the government was like, you know what? Gotham is too much to fix. We are going to section off the entirety of Gotham from the United States. It's going to be a no man's land. And in this place, any citizen that was stuck there, they had to form their own creed, their own people, their own culture. They had to find a new way to have currency, trading food, trading weapons. And then there was factions, and these factions had different boroughs and districts sealed off. That was their territory. If you were lucky, you would be in Batman's or the police officers, the Blue Boys, their territory. But if you weren't, you're in Joker's territory, Two-Face's, Killer Crocs. I forgot about that. You have to worry about a giant crocodile going to eat you. There is so much stuff. Gotham is just a safety hazard. A lot of people say that Gotham has a personality. In Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious earth, people say that it is a living nightmare that folds and melds itself to the people who come into the city. It breaks you. Sometimes it leads to you becoming better and you transcend what you were before you entered the city. Other times it breaks you down until you become a shell of your former self. That is how the many killers and muggers and all of these people are formed in Gotham. But why is that? Well, the baseline of all of it is that Gotham is cursed. Barbados, he was a demon that a lot of people in like the 18th or 17th century tried to summon. They had like a black dog, they chained up a young girl, they had all these satanic symbols on the ground, and they were trying to summon him, but it got stopped. The city wasn't corrupted over time, it was broken, just like that. You don't really build a city on a demon summoning ground and expect it to grow up normal. That's not what happened, and there's a lot of psychological influence that he has over the people of Gotham. It's atmospheric, creeping into their psychology. Somebody like the Riddler in Dark Knight Dark City, the debut of Barbados, he was literally persuaded to do all of these crazy things. He put a golf ball in a baby's throat. He was hanging people. He carried a Glock on him on all times. If you know the Riddler, anything about him, he thinks of it as a game. That is not his first method of choice. For the most part, he tries not to kill people. But in this situation, he was like, you know what, that is going to be my MO from now on. I'm gonna shoot some stupid riddles, and if you can't solve it, I'm just gonna shoot you. No death traps, just it is how it is. You're going to die by a bullet. On top of that, I think there's even more bad energy from Gotham, because in Infinite Crisis, the Rock of Eternity spawned on top of Gotham, right? And the Rock of Eternity, if you don't know, is the summoning place of Shazam. It's the heart of the multiverse. It exists on every vibrational frequency. And that thing exploded into a million or a billion pieces and just shredded a lot of people in Gotham. Thousands of people died just like that. In the earthquake, 100,000 people died immediately. That's not even like talking about all the people who starved, who couldn't have anything to drink, or who died from prolonged injuries. Gotham is cursed, man, and even if you decide to kill any of the villains, it was said in the source material, Gotham will create something worse to take their place. And that's what Batman was afraid of all this time. If he killed the Joker or somebody like him, Gotham will make something even more vile. And it happened. When Joker was taken out of the picture and Dick Grayson was Batman, Professor Pig came in. Flamingo, a literal cannibal serial killer, spawned. Red Hood came back in his villain glory. So many things happened. Dr. Simon Hurt became a bigger player. The Black Glove. He was the devil personified. So yeah, Gotham, it's not it. I would suggest you, if you're gonna travel anywhere, just don't go there. Yes, it might be better now, this time of year. I would expect it to go back to being worse. That is the status quo of it all. And how could I do a travel guide without mentioning one of the most traveled to places of all time? Marvel's New York. Now the problem with Marvel's New York is that when you take a step back, why does it need like 15 different protectors? Why is the Avengers there? Why are the X-Men there? Why are the Fantastic Four there? Why is Spider-Man there? Why is Daredevil there? Why is Moon Knight there? Why is Punisher there? Why is Iron Fist and Luke Cage there? Why is Jessica Jones there? Why do you need so many people and crime is still rampant? There is enough crime in that city for multiple Marvel books to be sustained for the next 50, 60, 70 years. For the end of time, there will be crime. Bars. But it's not stopping anytime soon. You'd think with that many protectors and that many lethal protectors, even Venom, dude, you would think that it would be better now. It's not. Not to mention all of the side families like Miles Morales in there, the entire Spider family, Daredevil and his sidekick like Blind Spot, the entirety of the Defenders. Whenever Silver Surfer shows up, he spawns in New York City. And to really take all of it into the bigger picture, we have to think about all of the events that happen, right? Symbiote invasions, alien invasions, maybe you'd have Galactus pop up, entire Asgardians will appear wanting the smoke. Like, not only do they have to deal with organized crime, not only do they have to deal with villains, they also have to deal with the cosmic significance of them being such a little speck in the world that they could be blipped off the map. It's like Gotham and Metropolis combined, and I'm not even going to talk about Metropolis because Metropolis has like 10 to 15 different Superman level beings all protecting the city. When Doomsday showed up recently in the Williamson run, Superman ran that fade immediately. It was so on sight that he went around the world in like, I don't know, like a millisecond and clocked Doomsday so hard that he killed him like that. And then he respawned again, but then Superman raged out, beat his booty, and then he had his super core members inject him with a Black Mercy venom to keep him trapped in his own dreams. And then when he got out, Lex Luthor had shrinking tech and put all of them in a bottle. So dude, Metropolis is good, gang. New York is where the problem is at. Shatari invasions, the police are corrupt because a lot of them are in Kingpin's back pocket. Punisher, he kills so many criminals, but nobody has been deterred. You'd think with his presence, people would be like, nah, I'm okay, I'm not gonna do anything. Moon Knight, with Moon Knight involved, we know that there's vampires consistently in the field, trying to bite and convert citizens. Doctor Strange and his mystical arts, Dormammu and his mindless ones, Baron Mordo just coming through a portal to wreak havoc. On top of that, all of the political shenanigans, seeing that Marvel's New York might as well be the center of all reality because all of these things happen, all of this corruption, all of this violence, all of this just machinations from like people like Hydra. A lot of Hydra's biggest plots are started in New York. Hydra tries to drop nukes in New York. Not even Washington, D.C., as you might expect since they're Nazis, right? Trying to destroy the Capitol. No. New York is just a nexus for bad things happening. I don't know why people live there. Rent must be cheap. This has to be a Gotham situation all over again. But before I move on to the next one, I just gotta say, this is my take. New York City in Marvel is worse than Gotham. People gotta realize that. Is it fact? No, but from what I've seen, and the amount of protectors of various power levels that are needed to keep New York safe, it's not worth it at all. I would rather travel to Gotham than stay a day in Marvel New York. A little known city that might be traveled to if you are a bit grimy, you do not want to be placed in the city, but it's called Pleasant Hill. Now, Pleasant Hill was created by S.H.I.E.L.D. using Kobik, and Kobik is a sentient fragment of the Cosmic Cube who takes the form of a little girl, and this city is kind of eternally stuck in the 1950s suburban type of ideal. And in this place, the only reason why you would be in it is because you're a supervillain. What they do is forced rehabilitation. It's a prison of the mind. There is no bars involved. It changes your entire personality. You are rewritten from the ground up. It's a lobotomy. You're going throughout the world with a smile, but you're not exactly who you are. Forced mind control so that you are friendly. Absorbing Man was a mechanic while Baron Zemo was a mailman. Isn't that crazy? That is such a crazy idea. And if you guys want to know, it happens in Avengers Standoff if you want to check it out and kind of read up before you travel, you feel me? But they make them into docile civilians. And the scariest part is Kobik. It's a childlike innocence with near limitless power. She thinks she's helping, right? And they're taking advantage of her so that she could create this city. Is it a city or would you classify it more as a neighborhood? I don't know, but thematically, it asks the question about ethics. Is it ethical to rehabilitate if it's forced? Would it just be better to put them in prison, or is it better to make them a puppet? That is all up to you, but they put a lot of criminals in here, and a lot of people have the chance to be redeemed, but this doesn't give you the chance. it just pushes another personality on top of you. It just aligns something else where your physical matter should be. It's like when you see those like phasing heroes who are able to clip through people. Imagine that, but they actually phase back once they're in your position. Usually it would lead to people being like exploded into a billion pieces, but imagine somebody just taking over you and you're in the back seat. It's like disassociating in a way, but you don't even know what's happening. And the funny thing about it is that it's not violent at all as the other cities I've talked about. It's one of the worst places because it lies to you. You don't get tortured, you don't get locked up, you get brainwashed into loving the prison that you've been put in. You become the perfect person, but there's no personality behind the eyes. You know when people make those jokes, head empty, just full of air? That's what this is. And they are conditioning a reality warping child that this is the right way to go. What if she loses control? What if she ends up doing this to the people who she's working for? The problem with breaking down these barriers in terms of power is that it leads to people feeling more comfortable using their abilities for other means. It's like putting a ticking time bomb in a peaceful neighborhood. You don't know when that switch is gonna happen, if or when it does. And let's be honest, when things like this happen, when doesn't it backfire in the face of these organizations? Like, let me know. Is there ever a situation where it's like, yeah, this is the best move and a lot of people ethically agree with it, but it's never gonna work out. It's just gonna lead to more problems. And that it did in the end. It didn't just break villains, it broke the heroes too, knowing what they were a part of. Post-production Natrix here. Now before I get started, I want you guys to know that the following was done once I had a stuffy nose, and I was kinda messed up. Accept me for who I am, please. I would do the same for you, but I recorded, I sounded very stuffy, and that is just the way of the game. And when you're recording, sometimes you have a good take. If you guys know with my videos, I do it off the top of my head. No script really involved except for a couple of jot notes. So yeah, I just had to keep it in. And sorry if it hurts your ears, I don't think it would that much. I just sound very nasally when I speak with a stuffy nose. This is honestly one of the stupidest post-productions I've ever done in my life, but yeah, safe travels and on with the video. The next city is Hub City. Now this is the city monitored by the Question, one of my favorite heroes. And the problem with this city is that there isn't really any supervillains to be stopped. The Question tries to outthink a system that's already won. There's no monsters, just people, survivors. It's very believable. It's not comic book evil, it's real world evil. That's what makes this place so scary. It's ruled by corruption, but unlike Gotham, there isn't any gothic or noir or theatrical element to it that might make it appealing for the everyday person to go there. It's just real world depression. It's one of the most awful places in the DC universe. One quote that really stuck with me is, if Metropolis is what we aspire to be, and Gotham is what we fear, then Hub City is what we ignore. Everyone here is corrupt. It is a criminal machine. The mayor that got elected, Wesley Vermin, the only reason why he got there was because the Question outed the other candidate of dirty secrets, of the evil that he was doing behind the scenes. But Wesley was just drunk and incompetent. There's no reason why he should have won, but there was nobody else. He was the only man for the job. He was the only one who stepped up, the only person who quote-unquote cared about the city. Not really, he just wanted power. And Victor Sage, the Question, he regretted it. He tried to do the right thing, only for the wrong thing to happen. He made it even worse. He replaced one evil for another. In Hub City itself, no matter how much he tries to make a change, it resists it and replaces it with more violence, more domestic abuse, more drug addictions. All these things happen on an everyday basis and work towards breaking down the Question's character. Each and every win that he feels is hollow. Just like Gotham, if you stop one crime, another takes its place. It's kind of like the Hydra motto: cut off one head, two more take its place. You're making it worse every time you think you're making it better. You can't solve Hub City. He is the Question. He's one of the best detectives there is, and he's been at it for years. All you can do is endure. Just like Alfred says in the Dark Knight trilogy, people are going to hate you for what you must do, but at the end of the day, you can only take so many measures before something just blows up in your face. So you kind of have to play a little bit on the outskirts and then eventually kind of work your way in to the corrupt infrastructure before making drastic moves. And even when you do that, it gets replenished. It's like reloading a magazine or a clip in a video game. It's infinite. It never runs out. You're playing a multiplayer match. You can't afford to run out or the game is just not going to be fun anymore. It's kind of like comics in the never-ending state and status quo of having villains come back and forth and repeating the loop in circles because these characters are too profitable to get rid of. In 52, one of my favorite DC series of all time, I suggest everyone to read it. It will make you into a DC fan, mark my words, but Hub City is hit with a massive outbreak of disease and famine, just like Gotham and Contagion. But unlike Contagion, what makes it worse is that it wasn't something created by a villain. That was an entire ploy created by Ra's al Ghul to kind of cut down the population and to hit Batman where it hurts. This just happened. Martial law was declared. It became an apocalyptic present where the government abandons it completely. It's a no man's land situation all over again. Even Renee Montoya, who becomes the new Question, declares Hub City as a failed state. Almost for a brief period of time, no one really lived there. It was just people trying to survive one more day. And to end this little segment off, I'll end it with one quote that actually hit me to my core. At least in Gotham, the power is still on. Yo. It's very hard not to become disillusioned and introspective in a city that just breeds violence in such a real-world manner. You're not even... Going there doesn't even help you escape. You're not even seeing something fantastical and crazy. It's just going from one hell to another. And living in the real world, I can tell you, that is not something you want to sign up for. And finally on this travel guide, we are going to be talking about Atlantis. Now Atlantis, we could call it a city, some people will call it a continent or a country in and of itself, but let's be honest, we all think about the lost city of Atlantis. So that's how I'm going to format this, and we're going to combine both Marvel and DC. So yeah, Namor, Marvel's first anti-hero, and I would hate living under Namor because as a king, he's so unpredictable and emotionally unstable that I wouldn't know what to do. He sided with villains, he declared war, he flooded cities, one minute he's saving the planet, the next minute he's trying to drown it. Like, make up your mind, brother. He's like a tsunami given a crown. Which makes sense considering he lives underwater, but in general, he's frequently at war with the human world. In Atlantis attacks in 1989, Atlantis tried to invade the surface, so we're going all the way back to 1989, and this man was still trying to throw hands. In Avengers vs. X-Men, he floods Wakanda, kills thousands, and then Wakanda, as you might expect, retaliates and devastates Atlantis. They destroy most of it. I'm pretty sure in Hickman's Avengers run, it was repeatedly destroyed and rebuilt because there were so many wars going on with the Illuminati and Thanos. Every single minute, there is a war. If there's not a war going on in Atlantis, wait 5 minutes. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, destruction follows it like a dark shroud. In DC, it's not as bad. Arthur is a decent king, but there's so many civil wars that occur that it's basically just a tradition. In Throne of Atlantis, Orm is trying to fight his brother for the crown and does some crazy stuff. Tries to take over the surface world, tries to make it look kind of bad on Aquaman's part. In Rebirth, Atlantis becomes a kind of police state and Arthur gets framed. He gets overthrown by Coram Wrath, I'm pretty sure. He gets imprisoned, he gets thrown down into like the 9th tribe, the kind of ghetto or Gotham, I guess, of Atlantis, which is really cool. Read Dan Abnett's Aquaman. I love it, bro. I love that book so much. And there's multiple religious cults that kind of come into power that make Atlantis hostile to outsiders, including Aquaman at times. If he leaves too often, they get pressed for some reason. It's like, dude, is it a monarchy or is there a coup gonna happen like every single second? In terms of enemies, there are so many crazy things, from the trench to the H2O, like teleporting demons, to like Zebel, an entire colony of Atlanteans that are very resentful to Atlantis and all those types of people, leading to more civil wars. We have Orm, we have Black Manta always trying to do some terrorism. In the catacombs of the city, there's something called the Abyssal Dark, a dark magical creature that, if infected, makes you into this huge primordial Lovecraftian monster that destroys everything in their path. You can't let that go. And if you go even further down, you'll find Cthulhu, and if that escapes, all hell will break loose if Aquaman isn't there to control it. So yeah, living as an Atlantean is not exactly the most ideal trade, especially if you're living a pretty decent life in the real world, because there's just constant conflict. We have Dead King's Tomb and all these dead previous rulers of Atlantis becoming archenemies later on. We have Trition, or whatever his name is, Triton? I forgot how to pronounce his name, but he's a literal god trying to destroy Atlantis. There's been multiple times, like in Obsidian Age, where Atlantis actually comes back. It's not a sunken city anymore, it gets lifted up, but they can't breathe oxygen, they just die. Only Aquaman and other Super Atlanteans, that's the class division. Super Atlanteans are able to breathe in water and on land, and not that many of them are that. If you're going to be living in Atlantis, you're going to be a normal person, so you're not going to have all these powers. And if that's not enough, you also have the United States government trying to take your magical and technological valuables all the time, and Superman and other Justice League members have to step in. They splice the DNA of their troopers to become like human shark hybrids to fight Atlanteans to take their stuff. It's just pure squabbles in Atlantis, and for me, I would rather not. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments. What's your favorite comic book city of all time? What do you think is the most dangerous city? Don't just say Gotham, because I honestly, in my humble opinion, I don't think that's the worst city in comics. That's just an overgrown opinion that's had way too much time in the sun. There are worse places to live. What are the worst places? Not even cities. Worst places to spawn into. Imagine like spawning on Apocalypse as a slave. That would just be the worst thing of all time, let me tell you. But yeah, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live. And yeah, see you all later. Take care. Deuces.